Those who are having revelation, real revelation.
You mean demonic revelation?
No, either creative revelation or demonic revelation. In other words, how do we separate? This was a problem that Father Malachi Martin had in trying to decide whether or not to do an exorcism.
Right, I mean, there is some sense of a physical imbalance, a chemical thing that could be going on. A lot of people believe, and I know Father Malachi did on in certain extent, that it is a demonic thing, but not in all cases. It's very hard to tell. I think when the caller said that they have control over him, it's best to try not to give the dark side too much credit. Don't give them that control. They can't take it unless you give it to them. And if it's a chemical thing, you need to be working with a physician for that.
All right, that makes sense. All right. Again, going back to the rapture for a second, if you're not raptured and you're one of the ones left down here,
right.
What advice would you give those strolling around wondering where everybody went?
I'd be praying an awful lot that I could make amends fast enough to get out of here. If not, I know that there are refuges that will be available to people. Bands of almost going back to the early Christian days in the catacombs that will be living together and trying to survive the coming horde. So I think the best thing you can do is try to keep focused on God. It's going to be very difficult because there's going to be a lot of...
For those, it would be kind of a purgatory on earth.
It is purgatory on earth, and we are cleansing our sins, and as we cleanse them by whatever plague or something that we have to endure, whatever physical and emotional suffering, that expiates our sins. And so as you expiate them, then you will be more eligible, so to speak, to be raptured.
Well, the Rockies, you're on with Kathleen Keating. Hello.
Some people might think that I'm about to blasphemy, but here it goes. Personally, I believe that four horsemen of the apocalypse, are the four major religions of the world. So far, what you've seen through history is religion has brought war, famine, pestilence, and death. My personal belief is that we need to pay more to yourself and become more spiritual.
Well, what about the old, okay, but what about the old argument that it's not religion so much that's doing this as man's application of free will within that religious view?
Well,
How about that one?
there's something there. Just to continue. What I believe is that Native American people hit the nail on the head when they said, we are basically all interconnected. We are all part of one. And I think that's what we need to realize. And personally, I believe, well, your experiments you prove that if everybody concentrates on something hard enough, we'll make it come to be.
I'm proving something, I don't know what.
Well, I mean, if we all believe the end's coming, it'll come.
How about we can put it off by all getting together and having positive thoughts that we start thinking of God and we all do it collectively and wham, it's put off.
Well,
It gets better.
why do we need God?
Well, we couldn't live without him. We could not live without him.
Well, he's saying that if we can either bring it on or forestall it, then we are doing this ourselves. We are, in effect, God.
Well, we promoted ourselves as God, sure.
We are not God. We are not God. We are part of a larger organism. That's why I see it more of a scientific type thing. I believe we're all interconnected. Like, I mean, how many Catholic priests have said, I was at the forest and I heard him speak to him, as compared to, say, Native American shame?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I believe we got to get more spiritual and less idolization. I mean, we're worshiping idols. Personally, the way I see it, if there truly was a God, he wouldn't care how we worship. He wouldn't care that we went to church every Sunday. I think he would be more concerned with how we lead our lives, how we we try and do greater good. I just,
I do agree with that, but I mean, very strict dogma says all kinds of things about what will happen to you if you're not baptized, what will happen to you if you don't believe specifically, and you know, accept Christ and all the rest of it. You know, you're not going there, you're going there.
Well, the best part is we're all going to find out soon, aren't we? Who's right?
I personally believe that church or religion was created for one purpose, money. I mean,
There are a lot of people.
what's the richest country in the world right now?
We are.
Besides, well, okay, another rich country, Vatican.
Oh,
Very, very rich.
very rich, yes.
Very, very, very rich. I mean,
Well, I suppose for its size, per capita, yes, the Vatican would be richer than we are.
since the beginning of time, we've been hunters and gatherers. Before, we used to hunt and gather birds and gather berries and fruit and vegetables. And
All right, well,
now
yes.
what we hunt and gather is nickels and dimes.
All right, it's a good point. The point changes. You know, he's really right. Per capita, the Vatican certainly is richer than we are as a nation. In totality, certainly we're the richest nation in the world. But the Vatican is, for its size, per capita, the richest nation in the world.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of what has to be. I think it's the target, of course, for people that want to take it over. Because of that money, because of their it's just incredible the power that they actually have.
So, the Vatican, the very place that Catholics look to, is the very place that now has within it evil.
Yes, unfortunately, that's true. I do not think that Pope John Paul II is evil. I think he's a very holy man,
Right?
and I totally respect him. I think there are people around him that are absolutely evil, and those are the people that are going to take over. And I think that's going to be a terrible thing because most Catholics are going to be just,
And those are the people that Father Malachi Martin worried were going to kill him. And those may be the people that Father Malachi Martin was talking about if he really said, I was pushed.
That could be. I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's true, but it certainly makes sense because it wasn't the first time. But those people are very, very strong. Their group is so entrenched that they've got a lot of connections and a lot of things they can do to people.
Kathleen, I always, at this juncture in the program, I know you're in Nebraska, you're a time zone or two away.
Sure.
I asked them whether they wished to do the final hour or not.
I'm game as you are.
You are, huh?
You bet.
All right, then so be it. My guest is Kathleen Key. She is an acquaintance, was an acquaintance of the former Father Malachi Martin, who I'm sure you heard interviewed many, many times right here. She'll be back for a final hour about the final warning in a moment.
East of Milwaukee, 1-800-825-5033. First-time callers may reach out at 1-775-727-1222. And the wild card line is open at 1-775-727-1295. To reach out on the toll-free international line, call your AT&T operator and have them dial 800-893-0903. This is Coast to Coast AM without Bill, from what Kingdom of Nine.
That a long-term climate cycle known as the Pacific Decadal Oscillation is showing signs of shifting gears. The latest tantalizing hint that this may be the case comes from satellite images released last week by NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab. The reds and the whites in the picture depict large areas where sea surface temperatures are above normal. The blues and pinks signify colder waters. And so forth and so on. So that's what the scientists are saying. They will always have something to say. They will observe what's going on, the changes that are occurring. And they will try and come up with a reason for those changes. What they're saying to Time Magazine right now about changes.
Taking care of my publisher, Picasso Publications.
At mail.com.
At mail.com. And I'd be glad to answer anybody's questions or help them in any way.
Oh, they're going to have a lot of questions.
Questions are good.
All right. Well, then let's keep them coming. First time
Okay.
on caller line, you're on the air with Kathleen Keating.
Hello, hi. This is Julia from Tennessee.
Yes.
Hi, Julia.
And I understood you, Kathleen, to say that you think that extraterrestrials are evil.
I believe they are. From the evidence that I've seen, I guess we're going to find out whether they are or not. But I tend to believe that they do have some demonic attachment.
Okay, I would like to offer you a different perspective.
Okay.
Starting in 1956, I had UFO experience when I was 8 years old. And a UFO came over Long Lake outside of Gilead, Ohio. And it came down and frightened everyone that was with me. And I said, oh no, don't be frightened, it's just a UFO. And in 1983, we talked about the triangular shaped arcs and flying at tree level. And I had an amazing experience. I counted 42 triangular objects. I was working in my studio. I'm a handbag designer. And I looked out my window and I saw this enormous, as big as a football field, but it was circular, craft go down on top of a mountain, and I mean, this is the honest to God's truth, the mountain, on top of the mountain was a home, but when the craft approached it, the whole earth opened up and the craft went down into the mountain itself.
I've heard stories like this before.
This is the truth. I got in my car with my ex-husband, and he and I started riding up the road, and I counted 42 triangular crafts And they did have there was a central light on underneath it. It looked, well, you would think of jet propulsion, actually, but it was totally silent. There was not a sound. Well, right after that, I was in my bedroom at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and this pink light came through the window, and it went over me. Well, I opened my eyes, apparently seeing some form of light. It was in the corner of the room. It only went over me, and I was terrified. I threw my blankets over my head, and something suddenly told me just to be careful. I stayed there for I could not tell you how long, and it drifted out of the window. Well, out of the window, there was a circular, I couldn't tell you the circumference, but underneath, there was a pink light. It was hitting the earth, and there were figures underneath it. Okay, nothing happened. In 1991, I was miraculously healed in a Catholic hospital, and they had told me that I had terminal pancreatitis. It was acute, and I would be dead within 7 days. And a blinding white light came to me, and all I saw was a tunnel, and at the end of the tunnel was a figure which moved to the right.
All right, for the sake of brevity here, if I may, ma'am, first of all, the first thing that you described, this encounter, this close encounter, how do you characterize that? What do you think
I do not find it demonic at all. What I do believe...
Well, you were under the covers.
I was under... Oh, you mean when the pink light...
Yes.
Oh, it frightened me to death at first.
But you don't regard that as a demonic encounter?
Well, no. It frightened me because it was unusual, and I think we question anything that is unusual.
Yeah, but if you hadn't gone under the covers, you might have a totally different point of view right now.
But I brought the covers back over my head and opened my eyes and witnessed the pink, and a peace came over me. And I saw the pink light. At this point, was pink. It went out of the house.
Okay, and then later a healing. With
Yes,
white,
there was a
white
miraculous
light.
healing.
All right.
And it was overnight. I saw a blinding white light. And after that, in 1994, I saw, I think I counted 14 of these triangular shapes in the sky. And they had a light, but they were moving up, down, left, right, in all different directions, but they were semi-stationary. And the reason I say I don't believe that they are demonic is that if I believe in God, and I have tremendous faith, and I don't express it often, and I mean for me to do it publicly.
That's fine.
But I think that since we cannot see beyond ourselves, there is definitely someone, God, whatever name you wish to place upon it, and other beings that were here before we, and that they are here to protect those of us who are true believers of this concept.
All right. There are a million stories like that. Kathleen, people who have had, encounters of all sorts that they don't regard at all as demonic.
No, in fact, they come off very positive.
Exactly.
There are a lot of stories about healings and benevolence and so forth. They don't have the disparity there of, oh, geez, it was a horrible experience. You're going to see a lot of that. In fact, I really think that you're going to see these UFOs and these creatures in them have a cure for AIDS. I think you're going to see that. I think they're going to come and they're going to witness friendship. But, you don't catch flies with vinegar,
So it'll all be a deception.
Yeah.
It is all now a deception.
It is, and the Julian said they went down into the earth.
Yes.
Most theologians believe hell is going. And that's where the ships are going, so.
All right. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hello. Yes, we're on the air.
My name is Chris.
Yes, sir.
I'm calling East of Milwaukee. Good morning, I'm in Kathleen.
Hi, Chris.
The show comes going off in slightly different directions, but earlier in the show, we were talking about the 3 days of darkness.
Sure.
First of all, I'd like to say I enjoy listening to your show. But I can't help but think that there's a contradiction between 3 days of darkness and God will punish all, and then about 15, 20 minutes later in the conversation, it turned into we send ourselves to our own destiny. And am I just calling, knowing what kind of people might be listening, and I'm collected with Antichrist DNA? Or I've also noticed that now it's turned to more of an alien belief, and I'm just kind of curious.
I think it's a contradiction.
Yeah, and I think it's all interrelated. I think that all of this is so complicated that every piece belongs to the puzzle. And it's not going to be a perfect picture yet. We don't have the whole glimpse. But it's all related. Yes, we do condemn ourselves by our actions, but God is going to clean house. There's no doubt about it.
It's just that we're the ones with the brooms.
Right. We're the brooms. I mean, we're going to get it one way or the other.
No, I was just curious.
That's really clear. In other words, God will cause a judgment. And the judgment we will make ourselves, sir.
Okay.
That seems clear to me.
All right.
All right?
Thank you.
Eastern Rockies, you're on here with Kathleen Keating. Hello.
Yes, Steve and Dallas.
Yes, hi, Steve.
Yeah, I don't mean to. I mean, I'm not trying to discredit her or anything, but
Say what you want to say.
I have to ask about Adam and Eve. The strange thing is that, you know, in 7 days or whatever, God created everything, or was it 5?
Well, I think it's 6, 8.
Yeah.
The rest of everything, the rest of yes. But in those days, after creating the trees and the earth and everything else around it, then he created man with these animals. But the strange thing is that, in fact, you have fossils, dinosaurs, and things that lived millions, and perhaps billions of years before us.
That's right.
And I mean, I'm always open, something else that maybe Satan put those fossils there, but
No, they were here. I mean, the earth was here hundreds of thousands of years before man was. And you had creatures like the Cro-Magnon and whatever, and they were here, but they did not develop into Adam and Eve. The creation belief is that God did create 2 human beings with souls. There were beings beforehand that didn't have souls, but Adam and Eve, they were given souls, and the creation process of the birds and whatever was over 1,000 years per day, according to the Bible.
Because you would believe, Kathleen, that animals can have their souls?
I think they do, and I think St. Francis believed that, and from what I have seen in research, they do go to heaven.
well, that sounds great. What about the people that live off the Amazon, places they've never been touched by Christian religion, people that have never been taught these things? What about their souls? How do you think they would react to this, all this meaning across the sky?
See, I think they're touched by God in their own way, and I think God treats them as fairly as he treats anybody else. He loves them as much as he does everybody else.
All right. Well, thanks for answering my question.
All right, well, thanks for asking. Western Rockies, you're on the air with Kathleen Keating. Hi.
Hi, this is Gabriel in Colorado. How are you both?
Hi, Gabriel.
Well, it sounds like we're being disturbed by this possibly. And I think that anybody would with any common sense. But, Kathleen, I have to ask you something with being a Roman Catholic, and I'm Catholic myself.
Okay.
Number one, you were taught, if I'm not mistaken, if you're old enough to remember, Krishna Private Mass,
Yes.
the High Mass, all the truth. Before the Pope, before Pope John 23rd, and the 6th, and now Pope John 2. For all the contradictions. And you must believe that there is no salvation out of the church that Christ gave to Peter on the rock, right?
Say that again.
You must understand and believe the dogma of the church and the truth
Yes.
that St. Peter was given by Christ.
Yes.
And that no one outside of the church can be saved unless they're baptized in the bapturation, and so on and so forth.
There is also baptism of desire.
Yes, there is, but was that recent or is that old?
That is old. That is
Old.
that. Go back to the time of Christ.
Okay, but it must be informed and so on and so forth.
It doesn't have to be. There are instances where people are not technically or officially baptized, but by their desire of the Spirit to be baptized, God considers that a valid baptism.
Yes, they say that God knows what's in a man's heart. one.
That's right.
But also this, all that's been talked about, Art, I think you'll find this interesting about the so-called anomalies, okay? And everything that's been going on has been handed down by the church for over 2,000 years. And any other church came about after the Reformation into the 8th. So, there's the history, and the church has never carried anywhere. The mystical body of Christ has never changed, do you agree? But the people inside the church have changed, correct?
The church itself, the magisterium of the church has never changed.
Yes,
People have
the body of Christ.
Right.
All right. So what we have here is we have a pope right now that has written in diabolical opposition of Pope support and talking about baptism. And anybody that studies this will understand exactly what's going on. These are demonic outward appearances. That's what you mentioned, this person showing up in your backyard.
Yes.
This has happened more than you know, believe me. And these things are going on all the time. Have you ever heard of the remnant?
Yes.
All right. Oh, all right, I'm sorry. The remnant is spoken about by the Father in Christ. And it always gets smaller when the church is attacked. And there's always small remnant of the believers. Some are killed off and they become saints and martyrs. And there's a remnant forming right now. And I thank the Father and the Holy Blessed Mother Mary that you were on this show. But this is all about saving souls. Nothing more. Because, as you said, the harvesting is happening right now as we speak.
Definitely.
And it's that serious.
Yes. We are at the final
Every
approach.
little deed, the fallen angel Lucifer knows about everything about me. He has full aegis. And any little defect that you have, you must pay attention to it. And if you don't, then you know about purgatory, but you have to be awfully saintly to be there. You can't be prayed out by the saints and by others here now, by the church militant. And I just prayed it out every day. I do my rosary, Kathleen. Art, I'll tell you something. You've got a wonderful show, and I think you're thinking about this very sincerely inside your heart. And you ought to look into it.
I think about it all the time, sir.
I know you do. I can tell.
All right, well, I appreciate your call. Everybody, hold on a little break here on the bottom of the hour. We'll be right back. I'm Art Bell. This is Coast to Coast AM. Listen to the word. First on caller line, you're on the air with Kathleen Keating.
I'm not a Bible scholar, but I was raised Roman Catholic. And to an earlier reference, as far as never knowing the precise moment that the Lord will come, I do believe that is a reference to Christ himself. But as far as the prophecies, I do believe we can know when the Antichrist is among us. We just would not know when Christ himself would come to redeem those of us to be redeemed. Is that correct?
He will be back at the end of the 3 days of darkness. We are pretty much assured that we have an idea. We don't know the exact date, but we do have the signs that tell us that he's near.
Yeah, he's saying we don't know the date of the return of the Lord, but
Right. We
but
have an approximation.
we can get a pretty good idea of the coming of the Antichrist.
Absolutely.
And do you believe that he is alive and among us now?
Yes, I do.
More than that, sir, you saw.
So,
I saw him.
I
I wish I had.
is this person of an age
I
of
would
effect
say he's in his 30s.
already?
Yes.
Times are short.
Yes, they are.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks again for enlightening program.
All right, sir. Wild card line, you're on the air with Kathleen Keating. Hi.
Good evening, Art. This is William from Portland. How are you tonight?
Just fine.
Good evening, Kathleen.
Hi, William. How are you?
Fine, thank you. I have thought about many issues I could take you to task on, but I'm going to boil it down to this. Considering that in the original Bible, after the time of Jesus, reincarnation was written in and removed later by man, and also through all the near-death experiences and reports of people like Daniel Brinkley, how do you reconcile that? What do you feel about reincarnation?
I do not believe in it. I know that some Jews think that it's in the Bible. I think that the continuity is not there as far as the teachings of the church. Or if you look it was messed with, as you said. It was in and out, and it was at a time when there was a lot of disturbance in the church about the writings as to whether they were apostle written or not. So no, I don't believe in it. I do think there are things that we don't understand.
Well, considering all the near-death experiences, are these people having demonic visions, or how would you...
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually.
It is possible. I'm not an authority to say yes, that's definitely what it is. But I think that we are under a deception, and some of these near-death experiences may not be accurate.
I feel that now that a lot of the fear people are feeling is the end of the patriarchal age, and a lot of the organized religions are going to be changing, and more of the power of the soul is going to be realized by individuals. I feel the second coming is really going to be a group thing as opposed to one man coming back like Jesus. I suppose I know it doesn't go with what you're saying, but...
Well, everybody seems to have their own interpretation, and again, we're going to see what happens.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Art.
All right, take care. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Kathleen Keating. Hi.
Good morning, Mr. Bell. Good morning, Miss.
Where are you, sir?
I'm from Montreal.
Montreal, Canada. All right.
Yeah. I want to know if there's some bishop from USA who can have access to be the next pope.
There are several candidates for the next pope. They've mentioned Cardinal in Africa, Arinze, and mentioned before Cardinal Martini, but they're now talking about perhaps a bishop from Puerto Rico.
Oh, so because I don't know, I think the pope will not last the year, and maybe could be replaced by somebody from USA, I think. What I foresee.
Is there any candidate being considered from the United States at all that you're aware of, Kathleen?
It is possible. I've heard rumors that when there may be a shake-up coming in where they move the bishop or the cardinal from Puerto Rico into New York to take that leading cardinal's position, that he may be one of the more primary candidates. But that's just speculation at this point.
Really interesting, though.
George Washington had a vision that he did see a cardinal heading this country, and it may be that he saw the Pope that follows John Paul II.
All right. West of the Rockies, you're on here with Kathleen Keating. Hi.
Good morning. This is Bill in Burbank again. Art, how are
Okay,
you?
Bill, you're going to have to yell at us. You're not
I'm sorry. I'll talk a little bit louder. I've been listening to this show with much interest, but I'm confused about the Antichrist and what Jesus the Christ might have had to say about him. Because I have a problem with all of the fear and awesomeness of the whole topic tonight, because I don't remember anything attributed to Jesus that was of that flavor, that tone, that left that message, if you know what I mean. In all of your years of researching this and speaking with various theologians and biblical scholars, has anyone ever brought anything to your attention that could be attributed to Jesus?
Referring to the Antichrist?
Yeah, I'm referring to the whole, apocalyptic writings.
Sure. Jesus said quite specifically that there would be one that would come in his place who would be readily accepted. And woe to the people who accept him, because they'd be better off dead, or better off never been born than to live in those times.
Well, I don't want to seem like I'm attacking your beliefs, because I've learned better than that in my
I don't take
years.
it that way at all, Bill.
But my first exposure to Christianity was at an early age, and in a particular variety where the Old Testament in the King James Version, as well as the New Testament, was accepted as biblical, inspired truth, and we tried to follow all of even the Levitical laws, if you can believe that. And I was taught in that particular form of Christianity that the Pope was the Antichrist. And I'm sure this is not new to you. I no longer have that feeling or belief, but I'm just saying that because I think that Christianity is its own worst enemy, and that it's really not so much a separate, full-blown, standalone, no prehistory kind of a thing, as it is just a heresy of Judaism, because this God that's going to be doing all of these terrible things to people that are foolish enough to have backslidden, or to have doubted, or to have failed to turn on a TV and be saved, that was the God of Abraham, who was just like the Jewish tribal war god.
And you think he's changed? He's a different God?
Well, I believe that because of the fact that what we call Christianity became accepted by then the largest single empire in the world, the Roman Empire, that this one particular heretical sect gained in popularity and exposure and control and power. It had the impetus of the biggest empire in the world at that time behind it, and consequently it has spread so far and so wide that it has become a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, Christians deserve hell for much of what Christianity has undoubtedly and undeniably done in its own name.
It's an interesting point of view, Kathleen.
It is. I don't think that this Pope is the Antichrist at all, but I do think that we will see the Pope, the anti-Pope, usher in the Antichrist. And I do think that the church has spread to the point, and it's been infiltrated to the point that it's become convoluted, and it's not the true church that it should be. Inherently it is, but there are aspects of it that have gotten way out of line.
You sound so much like Father Miller.
We agreed on this particular subject.
Obviously. First time calling a line, you're on the air with Kathleen Keating. Hi.
Yes, I'm Nancy calling from Portland.
Yes.
And I find it interesting in the conversations that you spoke about the rapture. Mm-hmm. And I believe that the rapture will occur before the 7-year tribulation period.
Right.
And I believe in what the Old Testament refers to as the day of the Lord, or the judgment falling as the rapture occurs.
Where we snatched up in the twinkling of an eye.
Exactly.
Right.
And that that people will, for whatever reason, whether it be UFOs or whatever, will not realize what has happened to thousands, hopefully millions of people that will just disappear, and that the Antichrist will show himself 3.5 years into the 7-year tribulation period. Do you know of scripture to support that? Because I'm not hearing scripture back, anything in scripture to back what you're saying about not believing in a pre-tribulation or post-tribulation rapture.
Well, I mentioned earlier, and perhaps you didn't hear this or I didn't state it quite well enough. The belief that I follow with the rapture is that it will start pre-tribulation, right after the warning, and that it will continue on through 3 days of darkness. So technically, it's a pre- and post-tribulation. It's just going to be running all the time until the end when Jesus comes back.
Yes, I believe that people still can be saved.
Yes,
after
absolutely,
the
until the
rapture.
last second.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
But they have to know that the only way they can be saved is through the belief in Jesus Christ as their personal Savior.
There's only one doorway, and that's Jesus.
That is Jesus.
That's right.
And that was just the point that I wanted to call.
That's going to leave an awful lot of people outside the door.
But we're all going to be given that opportunity to see that's why he is the door, so that we have a chance to choose. And it includes the Jews and the Muslims and the atheists. Everybody's going to have, hey, maybe we got it wrong, or let's look at what's going to happen here. God doesn't want anybody to go to hell, no matter what the denomination is.
Gotcha. Wildcard Line, you're on there with Kathleen Keating. Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
All right. This is Mark calling from Southern Maryland, listening to you on the Big Talker WPHT 1210 AM from Philadelphia.
Yes, sir. It's a monster of a signal.
And I would like to make 3 points very quickly. The first is I keep hearing about no one knowing the time.
Yes.
And I believe the scripture accurately, if Kathleen will back me up on this, is that of the day and the hour no one will know the time, not even the angels in heaven, but of the time and the season, I would not have you unaware that he describes a number of prophecies and says that just like when you see the clouds and say it's going to rain, you'll know that the time is at hand when you see these things. Is that not
In the
correct?
book of Matthew.
Well, I often hear it misquoted as no one is supposed to know. The second point, the young man who called you earlier, and you said that the young men would dream dreams. I believe that correctly is that your sons and daughters will prophesy.
Right.
Your young men will see visions, which was what he was talking about, and your old men will dream dreams.
I think it applies to all of us, and I think that...
I think so.
Yeah.
And lastly, the word Christ is often used like a last name or a title, but that's a Greek word that's often defined that describes an anointing, which means a total saturation. And the description in the Old Testament of that Christ anointing is that which removes burdens and destroys yokes and has dynamic power. And so would not the Antichrist be the one that comes with dynamic power to place burdens on and to yoke people?
Absolutely. He will chain us if we want to be chained.
That about covers my points. I'm really looking forward to my copy of your book.
Well, thanks, Mark. I appreciate it.
And thanks for the show, Art.
Take care, sir. You bet. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Kathleen. Hi.
Hi, Ms. Keating. Hi, Art. Good
Hi.
show.
Thank you.
Got a question for Ms. Keating. That every time I ask somebody of any religious denomination, they look at me with a very nasty look and walk away.
Okay, I can't see you, so maybe you can win on this one.
I'm hoping I can. I'm sure you've heard the phrase, history is written by the victors. How do we know God was the good guy in the war between Lucifer and God? All we have is his side of the story.
You have Lucifer's side of the story. You've got Lucifer's side here on Earth. You can see the way it's going.
Okay. I can sort of see where you're going with that, but that sort of goes towards what people will often say when they're trying to dismiss that. When someone says, well, wait a minute. We don't know if he really does have our best interest in heart. How do we know that the person who won, who we know is God, is the one who is truly looking for our best interest in that?
Well, if you don't believe it now, I think you will believe it in the morning, because God's going to make it abundantly clear. And again, in the miracle, as to who is who and why, and so that there will be no doubts. In fact, there will be many, many healings that will occur with the miracle, so so that people that have been sick all their lives do not make a choice for God or the Antichrist because they're encumbered with an illness, for instance. It's all going to become very apparent.
Well, personally, having been all my life told as a Christian of, I can't remember which denomination I was taught in when I went to private school when I was younger, taught that, we were put here to praise God. Maybe it's just my 20-year-old defiant side, but if I was created to praise something, I'm not going to go with either of them. I'm not going to go with the Antichrist or Satan, and I'm not going to go with God. The question of, is it better to serve in heaven or reign in hell, doesn't apply to me, because I don't agree with either.
Wayne?
Sometimes our egos get in the way, and they become our gods, and so if you don't know God, and you find him in your ego, and you create a God in your own right,
Then you made your choice.
You've made your own choice. You've made it for yourself. And God is such a giving entity that self doesn't enter into the equation because he takes care of you. You don't have to worry about self anymore.
Why were we given these egos that we have to sublimate?
We're all given challenges one way or another. I think the egos are tainted through living.
First time caller line, you're on there with Kathleen Keating. Hi.
Hi, my name is Marla, and I'm from Spokane, Washington.
Welcome.
And I can't believe I'm still up. I'm usually peter out about 1 o'clock. I'm what you would call a traditional Catholic. I've been going to Latin Masses since I was a little girl, and I've been hearing about the rain of fire and 3 days of darkness and all since I was a little girl. And I guess I've always dealt with it as, like the big earthquake that's going to come, and it never quite comes. And so I guess that's why I've been up listening to this. It's like, gee, my mother's been telling me this for years. And it's interesting to address the alien issue because I've always had a hard time trying to decide, okay, because it sounds like as I listen to Art Bell as I drive home from work, that they may come to a point real soon that they're going to say, yes, there definitely are aliens.
I think you're going to see that very soon, I think within the year.
And I find because I've been a very strong Catholic, I honestly go to like the Latin Masses.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been to an English Mass ever. And
you're a lot safer than those that have.
So I found myself really having a hard time dealing with aliens. And when you said, okay, they are diabolical, I thought, okay, in my heart of hearts, that's what I've always thought. And I thought, well, okay, maybe they aren't because I hear these people say that. But it also makes you doubt your religion. It makes you doubt God.
That's the whole idea.
And I think that's the whole idea behind it. And so it's kind of like, okay, now I understand it a little bit more. My husband totally believes in this sort of thing and reincarnation. I don't believe in reincarnation either. It doesn't square with the Catholic religion.
And I'm sorry to have to break it off, but we are out of time. Kathleen, it has been amazing having you on tonight.
Thanks for
every bit as real as the air we breathe but don't see. This is Dreamland. Sunday evening once again in Dreamland. Hi everybody, I'm Art Bell. And I think you're going to enjoy this evening as, in a way, kind of a follow-up to what we've done with Good Michael Scallion and beyond, of course. But we'll follow up on a couple of those things as well. Because our guest is going to be Dr. Bruce Goldberg. And his specialty is hypnosis, past life regression, future life progression. Wait a minute now. Future life progression. Seems to me if we can look into the future, we can look into the future. So we'll ask him about some of what Michael Scallion said, predicted. By the way, on that subject, our lines are just jammed with people trying to order that tape. And my recommendation to you is continue to try, if you're trying to get a tape of Gordon Michael Scallion, begin tomorrow also during regular business hours. Repeat, during regular business hours. You can continue to try tonight or try tomorrow on the number to call to get copies of Dreamland programs, to subscribe to our newsletter, or to order the tape of Mr. Scallion that so many are trying to get. Is 1-800-917-4278. 1-800-917-4278. In just one moment, Linda Howe will do an opening report for us, and I understand she's got a very interesting one. Many of you health-conscious people know about antioxidants.
In the Dolphin Island Parkway cattle farm area of Mobile, the only tissue removed from the large 1,800-pound bull was the tongue, cut from deep within the throat near the larynx. Mr. Fraser said that his two cows found 25 feet apart from each other, both lying on the same side with the same excisions, had 4 of their 6 teeth removed in neat circles. But as usual, the local livestock investigator told the sheriff's office that it was predator, and that has been the formal conclusion. Since the newspaper did an interview with me and some others, I've received phone reports from local residents who say that they have seen odd lights in the woods back of their homes not far from the pastures where the mutilated animals were found.
Linda, as a matter of interest, which predator is it that removes tongue and teeth?
As far as I know, none of them are capable of doing the kind of surgery I've seen with my own eyes. And when I was in Colorado in January and presented the update on our research about animal mutilation for the last 12 months, I showed the sheriff a whole series of photographs done by Texas A&M and University of Utah wildlife specialists on what predators do to cattle, to sheep, to goats. None of the photographs resemble any of the high-strangeness bloodless cases, and it impressed the sheriff, as in Alabama, the rancher knows that what he's dealing with is not predator, but for some reason we are still living in a time when it is easier to deny this strange phenomenon than it is to just simply face it, deal with it straightforwardly, and investigate it.
Of course.
Now, if there are any Dreamland listeners in the Alabama area who hear about unusual animal deaths, I would greatly appreciate your calling me at 215-491-9840. There's currently an upsurge of activity in Alabama, and I would appreciate fresh first-hand reports. My address is Post Office Box 538 in Huntingdon Valley, Pennsylvania, and the zip code is 19006. Again, the phone number for unusual animal death or strange light reports is 215-491-9840.
All right, we're on the air in Birmingham. Is it close to that?
Birmingham and Mobile, I don't know what the mileage is, but hopefully Birmingham listeners, maybe if you hear about something in the Mobile area, you can contact me, because it's one of the big challenges getting information out of even local areas, let alone the state.
Right.
Now, in December, I reported about a man in Atlanta, Georgia, who watched helicopters escort short what looked like a darker patch of blue sky that he could see moving against the lighter blue sky. He wondered if the helicopters were escorting some kind of UFO or new aircraft.
I remember.
Yeah. Well, last week I received a letter from another Dreamland listener who heard the Atlanta Man's report and talked to me about a United States government technology that might explain what the Georgia Man saw, and according to her, is based on extraterrestrial technology. The woman asked to remain anonymous even though she agreed to give this first-hand report about her conversation with a Central Intelligence Agency employee who has been involved in a project to make aerial craft invisible.
Oh, my. Shades of the Philadelphia experiment.
He is an engineer, had been an engineer since college, ended up in management probably by the time he was in his 40s, and somehow he got associated with the CIA. He was in Washington, D.C., and very smart man, and my ex-husband had been an engineer, and so we would talk engineering. I had a little concept of what he was discussing. It was fun. And then once we got into some of the things that, well, gee, you're going off to Vienna, and you're going off here and there, you're doing a lot of top secret things, aren't you? And he'd kid me a little bit and say, no, of course not, Linda. I would never be able to do anything like that. And, enough so I began to realize that he was involved in some things with the CIA, technical type of things that really were none of my business, and so I probably shouldn't pursue it. One night, however, after many, many months of just kidding around, he said to me, okay, tell you what, I'll discuss something with you that's very interesting that I've been involved in for a while, and obviously this is something for you alone. We're in an area where no one else would have heard. And he told me that they were working on a very top secret airplane that would be invisible. It would fly over, you would not see it, you would not hear it. Everyone knows their technology, they can, I guess, inhibit sound. That's not a problem. But if there's something that literally someone can walk in front of you or something passes but you won't see it, I said, well, how on earth does that work? And he said, well, it's altering of the cones and the rods in your eyes when it passes by. And I don't really know the technology, but taking a picture or whatever else, you've got to have the lens working and all of the mechanisms have to be working to receive the light into the eyes so that it registers. And something cuts off the light, I don't know. You'd have to ask an engineer how that works. But that is indeed the way they would do it. So it's there. It doesn't do anything to itself. It does something to your cones and your rods so that you cannot receive the light and see it. Remember him telling me that there was indeed a project and it did indeed work. So whatever the reasons and the plans for it, I don't know. It was sort of precipitated by your asking him questions if he had knowledge about extraterrestrial. Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's an important report. And, Linda, the visual spectrum to the human being is not very much different except in frequency than the audio spectrum. And you can do that with audio. You can virtually cancel audio.
Well, in fact, one of the footnotes to this, what I consider to be a very important report, too, was my own experience at Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque back in April 1983, when I was talking with Air Force Office of Special Investigations Agent Richard C. Doty about extraterrestrial phenomena, and he told me then, now this is 1983, that the government knew that the non-human intelligences that are interacting with our planet could deflect photons so that light would technology. And if any of our Dreamland listeners have any more information about photon deflecting technology or technology that would affect the cones and rods of the human eye by objects flying over so they become invisible, please contact me at my post office box 538 in Huntingdon Valley, Pennsylvania, and the zip code is 19006.
Well, this is liable to get us in contact, all right? Either you or me or both of us by somebody we don't want to talk to.
Well, slowly by slowly steps, I think at least Dreamland, I am becoming extremely convinced that we have a lot of listeners with a lot of solid information and that they are learning that they can communicate anonymously, and we will protect that, but still share the information which we all need to know. And just another small follow-up, you have been talking with Gordon Michael Scallion about the future, and you will be doing more so tonight with your guests. Recently, in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been getting phone calls and letters from abductees that I have had files and dialogue with over the last few years. And they are reporting what they call these virtual reality dreams that seem more real than life itself. And what they claim that they are seeing in the dreams are volcanoes and earthquakes. It raises a question, which I know you're going to be discussing tonight. Is there something coming up here in the future that is going to involve more earthquakes and more volcanoes?
All right, well, you're like another source. Then you have talked to a number of people who have said this, or what?
Yes, I have had at least a half a dozen phone and letter reports from abductees who don't know each other. They're in different parts of the country. And periodically, I will get phone calls and letters and what's on their mind. And right now, what is on their mind is upcoming earthquakes and volcanoes.
My. All right, very good. I appreciate that, Linda. And I assume next week, I shouldn't assume, will you be in Philadelphia?
I will be in Philadelphia as far as I know. And I look forward to continuing correspondence from our Greenland audience. This letter and this interview, I think, gives you an idea of how strong the content can be.
Indeed. Thank you, Linda.
And thank you all.
Take care. And I'm going to repeat her phone number for those listening to WYDE in Birmingham, Alabama. Or anybody else who has information on this technology that she just talked about. That's fascinating. Modifying the light and waves received in the cones and rods in your eye. Linda's phone number is area code 210 Donahue, Joan Rivers, Regis, and Kathy Lee, CNN and CBS News, among others. He's also served as a consultant on the film version of The Search for Grace, which was made into a movie for CBS starring Lisa Hartman and Ken Wall and aired in May of 1994. He also, by the way, in December, was on a program called Other Side, The Other Side, NBC television, where he progressed a studio audience member into a future life, and then later guided the entire studio audience into the future of this life and a future lifetime. December 3rd, CNBC reran his 1993 interview with Tom Snyder, and there they talked about physics and progression. So he's been all over the media. Now he's over it a little more. Here, with just a couple of minutes before the bottom of the hour, is Dr. Bruce Goldberg. Hi, Dr. Goldberg.
Hi, Bill. Nice to reincarnate back on your show.
Yes, glad to have you.
I have some good news for both you and your listeners in reference to the topic that seems to be getting a lot of attention these days. And, we can discuss this in more detail, of course, but progression is done by my patients, and I mean thousands of them, have shown that there will be no more major earthquakes larger than the Northridge earthquake, anyway, of last year, for the rest of the century. So the gloom and doomers are not going to get right this time.
That's good news, and I'm glad to have something over on the other side. But I would ask you this. I can understand how one could easily document regression. You could go back and look at history and records, and you could go through careful documentation, I know you've done that, and prove that your information is accurate. With regard to the future, how do you document it?
Well, you can document age progression first, and obviously this is what we did on the three patients that were kind enough to come on the other side with me last 2 months ago during the NBC year of the show, were patients who I had worked with about 5 years prior to the show. And what we did was I followed them up. I followed them through. One of them was a case of a woman who had AIDS, and she was able to proceed into the future where she was able to be taken off experimental medication that was not working, and her immune system would respond between, let's say, 4 and 5 times the quality that it would have done had the medication worked. That's exactly what happened. Her CD4 count is now 6 times what it was back about in March of last year.
Wow.
As a result of being taken off the medication.
And she came off that medication based on the progression?
Well, she came off the medication. She chose, we're going to talk about how we choose frequencies. She actually chose her ideal path in which she was told by the physician that the medication was not working and that it's her option whether she wants to stay on and get the side effects. And she said, okay, take me off.
Okay, take me off. All right, doctor, hold on. We'll be right back to you. Dr. Bruce Goldberg is my guest. We'll be right back. Area of Alaska. Got a second fax on it as well. It was 6.2 in, let me see, well, here's another fax. We listened to you on KFAR Fairbanks, Alaska. There was a 6.2 earthquake in south central Alaska today. And that's from Dan and Susan, and then combined with the USGS report that I have, also calling that, and a 6.2 earthquake in New Zealand, probably an aftershock. Northern Peru today, 5.7, and the California-Nevada border, 3.7. In Las Vegas, they had a mild one, 3.3, and 2.2 make that 2 very mild ones. Then this fax, good evening, Art. Please take a moment to welcome KYOS Merced, California, back to carrying Dreamland Live, and thanks for listening to their listeners. Yes, indeed. Thanks for listening to your listeners. KYOS back live with us on Sunday evenings. Now, back to Dr. Goldberg. Bruce, you there?
I'm certainly here.
Okay.
We were talking a little bit about how you can document some of these things, and again, the nice thing about when you work with this, I've been doing this for 20 years now, is that with people who I work with over many years, who I can then follow through on the 3 patients that were kind enough to go on the other side interview 2 months ago, these people had gone forward in time, back in 1989 all the way till about 92, when I worked with some of these people, and this was now anywhere from 2 to 5 years after the fact. The perceptions that they had received at the ideal frequency that we're going to talk about how people can actually control their destiny was actually able to manifest themselves. So they actually documented the progressions. Now, if you can document age progressions, then using simple extrapolation principles, you can also then make that a reasonable theory, let's just say, or hypothesis as to the future lives coming true too.
Sure, makes sense to me.
In fact, I worked with newscasters who predicted, in fact, in Past Life Visualized, in my older book, there was a radio host who predicted a baseball score result. There was a newscaster who predicted, if you will, or progressed himself to perceive actual news items that actually came true. Many of these were local, and they were not logical items, like a small plane crash and a fire in the city and the name of the person who died and things like that. So there were lots of little things that give more credence to the idea that these progressions are, of course, reality.
Well, one of the first things everybody would ask about this, Dr. Goldberg, if you can really begin to predict events, then you could predict the stock market, you could predict all kinds of financial trends and events that frankly could get you rich.
Mm-hmm. And the answer is you can do it. The problem here is that you have something called the laws of karma, and this is what it means. It isn't just one future. It's not like, this is what I always have a problem when people tell me about their psychic readings or some of the prognostications or even their own precognitive dreams that they have. Because you're getting a frequency or an option. If you're not on that frequency, then the lottery number you get or the stock market reading you get is not going to be relevant to you. You have to be on the same frequency where that perception or progression is attained.
All right, well, let me tell you just one little bit about Vern Michael Scallion, what he said about how his visions come. He said, almost like a television screen that plays in front of you, but not just one, 3. He said 2 of them will be fainter. One of them will be brighter in contrast and is the most probable future, but he agrees it could change, it could go another direction. He says he's learned to pick this brighter, more probable future.
Okay.
Does that make any sense? That coincides.
Actually, it does. What he's saying basically is that in Past Life Future Lives and also in The Search for Grace in the background, I give a complete explanation of how the quantum physics space-time continuum works. What I break it down to very simply are 5 basic options people have. And the one that's ideal, if you will, that the one they can choose and be programmed to, is going to be the one that's going to be pretty much their framework of their reality. Now, what that means, for example, let's say that Mr. Scallion and others, and let's talk about people like Casey and Nostradamus and biblical predictions and all the ones that unfortunately show gloom and doom. I'm not saying those aren't going to occur. What I'm saying is that I know I'm not going to be on that frequency, and anybody else who uses very simple techniques of switching tracks can actually be switched away from that track where that negative frequency is a reality to a more positive one. I'll give you a good example of this. The best thing I can relate to is that in 1977, when I developed the field of progression hypnotherapy, I decided to do a little research, an unpublished research experiment. I wanted to take about 500 people into the future, specifically going to the end of the century because of the various things I've mentioned, the Casey and the Nostradamus and the Bible and things like that. Sure. So what I did was I found out that about 80% of these people showed that on the frequency they were on, that in May of 1988, they came up with the same figure. May of 1988, a nuclear war began. Now, I don't read the papers every day, but, I don't remember one. In fact, the nuclear war is going on right now on a certain frequency. We're not on that frequency. That's how similar and how different they are. It's on the same longitude and latitude. It's on the same, shall we say, dimension, if you will, out there, except it's the parallel universe that it represents, which is proven, by the way, by quantum physics since 1957. We know about parallel universes. That has been documented at Princeton University, of all places, that they are that off. Just like a radio frequency is, if you change a dial, you're a hair off, you get a different frequency, you get a different show coming in.
All right, well, you're in California, right?
I'm in Los Angeles, right?
Los Angeles. My advice would be stay on a different frequency.
Well, you might, of course, but my point is that it's not, my point is to choose the ideal frequency and stay on that one rather than just say staying off all the others. You have to know where you're coming from. You have to know you have to have a scorecard with the players on there. And
sure.
Most people, they don't have that. What they do is they just unfortunately get hit by the gloom and doom. We were talking a little bit before the show about how I remember I was doing a radio interview here in Los Angeles on KFI Radio, a big radio station out here, and I was regressing and progressing the host of the show into the future. And she went to the 23rd century. And it was a great show, but what happened was that she was very nervous during that show because that was November of 1991, and the following month, the seismologist at Caltech predicted a major earthquake in the Midwest, the Mississippi River Valley, covering like about 10 to 12 states. It was supposed to be the worst earthquake in the world's history.
I remember it, yeah.
And guess what? And the news cameras were there, and CNN was there, and everybody was there. And December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, 1991, occurred exactly 50 years, by the way. And guess what? Nothing happened. And this was one of the most prominent men in this field who is not on the news very much these days, fortunately. But my point here is that you can't predict earthquakes scientifically. Now, psychically, of course you can get vibrations, and the patients of mine can get progressions showing that. But if you look around and perceive the other 4 major options, you'll find that there are no major earthquakes on at least 1, if not 2, of the major frequencies. And if you're on that frequency, the Northwich earthquake of last year here, or some of these others, you mentioned 6.2. I don't like any earthquakes at all, but you know something? 6.2 is not going to put California into the ocean.
No, oh no, it certainly is not. There's no question about it. Those are just quakes that occurred today.
Right. But what I'm saying is that people feel that the so-called big one, you know, they had, I remember on the local news here, just in Los Angeles about a week or so, 10 days ago, they interviewed a Caltech scientist, seismologist, and he said, well, you know, there's so much pressure built up, we haven't really had a big earthquake, I mean, the big one, for like since 1810 or something crazy figure. So he says, we're really due for one. He said, well, when's it going to be? He says, well, it could be tomorrow or in 75 years.
That's right. Well, actually, I think they narrow it down to the next 30 years. Could be tomorrow or within the next 30 years, but science is out there also warning right now of big earthquakes. So you're right, you're running against the trend, but that's fine. I hope you're right.
You know, the point is not to be scared by, this is what you call playing defense. And see, my point here as a therapist is empowerment. Number one, I'm not saying, believe me, I'm the last person in the world to do things of complete folly. I didn't move from the East Coast to the West Coast because I wanted to be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on a dinghy, you know?
Well, maybe this is why somebody accosted Dan Rather and demanded to know the frequency. I don't know.
But what I'm saying is that, look, if you send the energy out that you're worried about the possibility, what if, then you actually create an energy level that can make that a reality. If you take an empowered point of view, and if you take the point of view that, you know something, I don't really worry about earthquakes, there's not a darn thing I can do about them anyway, I'm going to think positively and program myself and my parallel universe on a positive level, guess what? You now have decreased significantly the likelihood of that disaster occurring.
Well, that's interesting. If that's a universal truth, then those who predict doom and gloom are bringing it on.
Well, they're only bringing it on to themselves. You have to have millions and millions of people actually send that negative energy out to do that. That's why, for example, those of your listeners out there who may have, not that this is a scientific treatise, but if they ever read, for example, the Seth materials, Jane Roberts' books in the early 70s, they would talk about Seth, the discarnate entity, would talk about how, well, you know, these earthquakes and these typhoons and all these little things are brought about by the global magnified negative energy. Quantum physicists have actually documented the fact that energy does have a certain effect. In fact, there was a scientist, a neurologist up at Stanford by the name of Carl Pribham, who is now retired in North Carolina now, but when he was there for 30 years, he came up with the holonomic memory theory, or brain theory, which states and combines neurology with quantum mechanics, which says that not only does a thought create a hologram, but that hologram creates parallel universes marrying into quantum physics, and you literally have a three-dimensional representation of your reality and your future and your parallel futures by just having thoughts occur in your mind.
Well, if we can do this with regard to external events, Doctor, then I would think that the power to heal oneself would be overwhelmingly strong.
Well, it is. In fact, you know, in my older book, Past Life, Future Life, I talked about a case of hysterical blindness of a woman who was able to use a regression and cleansing techniques to reverse that. I deal with allergies every week in my office. I have psychosomatic illnesses. I have patients who have everything from asthma, migraine headaches, to colitis, to spastic stomach, to colons, etc. These are people who are making tremendous, and of course the immune system. Let's not forget about the woman who was on the other side with me, Mary. She was able to build up her immune system where she's almost out of the AIDS classification now. That's how good her immune system is these days.
Actually, there are quite some number. I've been reading a book called You Don't Have to Die. I can't remember the name of the author, but there were a lot of similar cases documented in there of people who have literally actually brought themselves out of the AIDS classification by raising their T4 count.
And also people who have resist cancer tumors. You can see the research today. I had a call from an old friend from NIH, and she wants me to work on a research project with her, one of the grants in the future in reference to my techniques, just as more of a theoretical backup. And I said, fine, but what they're doing is now they're finding that the classic AIDS research isn't working. As this was in Mary's case, she had to be pulled off the drug because it wasn't working. What they're doing now is they're using the cancer research, because the cancer, you know, the problem with cancer is that the T lymphocytes, which fight cancer for the most part, they won't attack their own cells. That's why cancer, which is nothing but a normal cell that has become abnormal, the immune system doesn't attack its own. So that's why these tumors grow and grow and grow. And they're trying to use some of the ways to stimulate the cancer immune system to deal with AIDS. Now, what's also interesting is this. Carl Simonton back in the 60s or early 70s when he developed the visual imagery techniques for fighting cancer by using you imagine the cancer is a piece of meat and your immune system is a bunch of sharks and things like that. What he did was, he did that on a more of a psychological, hypnotic viewpoint, because his wife, Stephanie, was a psychologist. But at Penn State University, among others, I'm familiar with Penn State because of my undergraduate background in biochemistry, is that they came up with, they found out that when patients were exhibiting hypnotic levels, alpha levels, which also includes meditation, that they would actually increase the amount of T lymphocytes produced when they would do these biochemical, they would take certain aspects of the spinal fluid to see what the, and brain-mind barrier extracts to see what the production of the immune system was, and they found out that in alpha, the production of T lymphocytes was always increasing. So therefore, then we have scientific and absolute biochemical evidence to show that when people do things like relaxed levels of alpha, that they actually increase their immune system. In fact, I have a new scientific article coming out later this year, which will be a survey of the medical literature, it's not my research, showing how the medical literature shows that there is an adrenal corticosteroid produced by the adrenal gland called DHEA/S, and what this does, the production of this slows down the aging process. This article is to show how by using alpha levels like meditation, hypnosis, yoga, biofeedback, etc., that you actually will look younger. In fact, patients of mine that I see in my Los Angeles office, when they come in here and they've been practicing yoga meditation for 20 years, I can tell automatically because they never look their age. And neither do I. I mean, you see pictures of me, I don't look my age either.
No, you don't.
I don't have a picture in the attic with a steel on it either. You know, it's done by alpha techniques.
Okay, listen, I'm curious. As you progress somebody toward a future life, wouldn't it be possible to discern their rough date of death?
Oh, sure. You can get the exact date of death, actually.
Do people want to know?
Well, you know, it's interesting. A lot of them don't, of course, but inquiring minds want to know, I guess, is the way of doing it. What they really are more interested in is not so much the exact date, because you can't, certain things you can't prevent. You could prevent getting hit by a car if you didn't leave your house that day, yes, but you can't prevent necessarily dying of old age or dying in sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning in the year 2020.
So then they want to know the manner.
They want to know the manner. They also want to know, is this ideal frequency? I mean, did they accomplish what they wanted to, even though we were all going to die as a given for the biological body. But the question is, if they had a better frequency and a more fulfilled life, and they left their mark to their children and to the universe on a much more positive note, wouldn't it be better to die even younger, or maybe even more traumatically, if you will, than to live out a longer life and just be sort of like taking up the oxygen?
Oh, that's a fascinating concept. Have you been able to document the death of anybody?
Oh, sure. Oh, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you a very interesting case. So this is one where I was working with this gentleman who is an attorney from the East Coast.
Okay, hold on. That's a good hook. Let me take a break here. We'll be right back with Dr. Goldberg.
Let me tell you what happened. This attorney wanted to know what his ideal future was, so he was using my progression tapes that I always give a patient when I work with them, and he perceived himself having an ideal future where his wife was going to die in a car accident at the Capitol Beltway in Washington on a snowy February night. And he said, Doctor, this is a great frequency, but my wife dies. And I said, well, it's your choice. He said, well, is this like murder? And I said, no. I mean, your wife, if she chooses her death, is that what you want? She will choose her death. You don't let the brake on of her car. You just progress yourself into the future. Well, as it turned out, he chose that ideal future. And then I moved to the West Coast, and I didn't hear from him for a few years. And finally, he called me, and he said, Doctor, my wife is completely turned around. Everything is fine. I said, well, how was your wife? And he said, oh, well, that's one thing I have to tell you. She did die in February. This is about a year or two before that, in the Capitol Beltway on a snowy night, just like he perceived it in his age progression.
Oh, my God.
Now, the question is, again, well, did he tell his wife about the thing? As a matter of fact, yes, he did. His wife absolutely hated me. She must have thought I had 3 6s on my skull. I mean, she did not like anything to do with my work at all.
I'm sure.
She just despised it, so she just rejected everything, so it wasn't a great conversation that he had with her. But at the same time, on the principle here is that, believe me, I don't wish anybody's death, but remember, everybody chooses their own death. His wife literally chose to have that happen. She was informed about the situation and just ignored him. And as it turned out, his progression was extraordinarily accurate, and that's what happened. She's no longer on the earth plane in this frequency anyway. But here's on up, you see.
I understand. What would the implications be of having changed that, do you think? If he just said, oh, well, of course I don't want my wife to die, absolutely not allowed her to go out on any of those nights and had changed it.
Well, interesting enough, you know, if this is a change of the space-time continuum, you would think, and that would cause major problems, some people would say, but you know something really would, what would happen was that if she lived, okay, then he still would have done his thing and done his, that wouldn't have necessarily changed his other aspects of the frequency, and then because she lived and her thoughts would create a new reality and his thoughts would create additional realities, they would simply just make certain addendums and changes to that frequency in the space-time continuum. I don't think it's the same thing as if you stop the assassination of President Kennedy or if you stop the bombing of Hiroshima. Those would be a lot more significant aspects to the space-time continuum.
Would she, in your opinion, have died anyway within a short time?
Yeah, that we don't know, because you see, I don't do that. We don't.
All right, I understand. Doctor, we've got a hold right there. Fascinating point, too. Dr. Bruce Goldberg is my guest. Good evening, everybody. You're listening to Dreamland on a Sunday night from the CBC Radio Network. According to Dr. Goldberg, we're not at all. I want to take a second out. We've got a pretty heavy commercial load. We're booked tight, actually with a waiting list to get on this program to give you some idea of its popularity. Back now with Dr. Bruce Goldberg. Doctor, would changing the impending death of yourself or another be like fooling Mother Nature? Would it be like that?
No, not really. You can't fool Mother Nature. You can just simply sidetrack her. I mean, basically, you know, technically, there are things that you can do. We fool Mother Nature, if you will, or try to disguise it with modern medicine. The people live longer than they ever did before.
That's true.
And so that doesn't cause the space-time continuum to go into some sort of like a reverse exist here. I mean, the people still go on. But let me say, one of the things that I think both you may relate to this as well, and I'm sure your listeners will, is the idea of a lot of these events, like progressions and regressions, out-body experiences, etc., are preceded by dreams. In the case that was made into the movie, The Search for Grace, my new book, this is a woman who was murdered by the same man 20 times in 46 lives. And when she came to see me, she was getting these nightmares, these literally post-traumatic stress disorder type of nightmares of being murdered by a man looking differently, but she realized or felt it was the same person. When she went through all these exotic experiences and was able to remove this karmic bond, if you will, this negative karmic trait and karmic debt, if you will, and she was able to break off this relationship, just before doing that, she had dreams of herself being murdered by him in her current life, had she not have ended that relationship. And literally, had she not have done this, you know, I don't take credit for this case, it's really hers. I only train patients to do their thing, you know. But she had she not have done that, she probably would have been murdered. He tried to murder her on 3 different occasions. It was a very, very exotic case. But my point here is that she was able to change her future by having some sneak previews by dreams, but also by being able to literally raise the quality of her own soul's energy by using the very simple techniques that we use.
And interestingly, without the world coming apart.
That's right. Not only that, no earthquakes at the same time.
I hate to even bring this up, but I'm going to do it. The O.J. trial, as you know, they talked about dreams in the O.J. trial. He reportedly had one, and they made a big deal out of it. Marcia Clark, the prosecutor, said a dream is your heart's wish, or your heart's desire. I can't remember. She was quoting Disney. Is that what a dream is? What is a dream?
Actually, I tell you, Marcia Clark does not have degrees in psychology, I grant you.
Well, she thinks she does.
Although you should see her top list, they'll pick up the Inquirer. But anyway.
Are you serious? Do they have a top list picture of Marcia?
Oh, sure, yeah. It's censored, but yeah, it's incredible. It's not for sure. Before she got her briefs, but the point here about dreams, what dreams are physiologically, I deal with like real hard science. And what dreams are, when you have a dream, it doesn't matter what the theme is. The dream that you're having is actually a remnant of anywhere between 30 and 50 fragments of dreams. They really do mean nothing. Now, when they do actually come true, like a precognitive dream, or when you dream about a past experience that it actually documents and lays out as a past life regression, that's fine. You're getting a nice scenario coming in. But most dreams are just absolute nothing but, you might say, the mind doodling at night. They really don't mean anything. They're not necessarily the heart's one. I mean, that's...
I said that, the random firing of synapses.
Well, I mean, do you think people want to take a swan dive into some fjord? I mean, a lot of these dreams, which are really nothing but out-of-body experiences, are when people are floating in the air and they feel like they go into the flat on the ground, but they're never quite flat. You know, they just feel like fall, and they keep on falling. And these beautiful dreams, what about the sexual dreams? Does that mean that all these sexual dreams people have, they're trying to do half the county? I mean, you know, it's not quite the same. Some of them are just wishful thinking, sure. Some of them are actual reviews of real past and future experiences, and some of them are nothing but a big, you might say, antipasto of just things that are going on in different levels. I wouldn't sell the farm based on a dream.
I talked to somebody the other day, doctor, who said, we were talking about falling dreams. He said, I actually have come to the point where I'll have a falling dream and I'll wake up, or no, wrong, I'll realize midway down, actually realize that I'm dreaming. And in order to have the experience, I willed myself to go ahead and fall the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And he said I landed, or crashed, more like it, and laughed and got up and shook myself off and woke up.
Well, he had now, see, now that you now change the terminology, now he has a lucid dream, which means that you now know that you're dreaming, which really changes the rules now. The lucid dream is actually almost a somnambulistic, a very deep level hypnotic trance is really what you're doing when you're doing that. But now he's changing the rules. See, most people, if you talk about their dreams of falling, they never splat. They wake up beforehand. Either they wake up yelling and screaming, or they just wake up and say, you know, that was kind of pleasant, but I really wish I wasn't falling.
With a start. I usually wake up with kind of a start.
Right. What that is basically, it's a conscious remnant of an out-of-body experience. All dreams are out-of-body experiences. This is documented for nearly 40 years now. So basically, he is now changing the terms by being a lucid dreamer, which is very hard to do. It takes a lot of training, actually, to do.
Well, wait a minute. You're changing the story on me midway here. You're saying now, first you said all dreams are basically random synapses firing. Now you're saying all dreams are out-of-body experiences.
Oh, yeah. Well, they both, one is not necessarily a problem with the other. I mean, out-of-body experiences simply means that when you're dreaming, the soul, the subconscious mind, the spirit, is leaving the physical body, and when it enters into it, the synapses that you're referring to, the firing of synapses and the hypothalamus and all those, the storage of memories, etc., are simply just retrieving what you did when you took your little trip out of the body. I mean, that's part of the system. But see, the point here is that most people don't dream of splatting or landing. What they do is they simply wake up beforehand. He changed the rules by being a lucid dreamer. Now you're in a different ballgame. Now you're in you add another gear to the car here, you see. So now he can control that dream any way he wants to. You know, there was a great movie called Dreamscape. I don't remember, it came out about 5 or 6 years ago, where people would dream about actually, the dreams were reality, they were dreaming about this plot to kill the president or whatever they were doing. It was a great movie where the dreams were actually real. They were planting real dreams into people to do their thing. Of course, it was science fiction, but again, it's based upon science. But those dreams are actually, most people, when they die at night, those people that are old, you know, elderly or dying of natural causes, if you will, they will die in the middle of the night in dream levels, because the dream levels represent a very uptight and very tense area as compared to the unconscious mind, whereas during the waking day, the dream levels or the daydream levels of alpha or hypnosis, or simple daydreams that you would call it, is really the more relaxing part of the day.
When you take somebody through a regression or progression, how much of what you learn do you tell, and how much on a regular basis would you hold back?
Well, actually, I hold back almost nothing, because I don't have to hold back anything. They're telling me, I don't tell them. I'm not a psychic. I ask them the questions. It's almost like an O.J. Simpson interrogation here. I ask them the questions, and they say, okay, where are you? I'm in a carriage driving in London in 1921 with rhinestones on the boots, whatever. They tell me everything. Now, the patients who will not be able to recall, where, of course, I will take those sessions when they have what we call hypnoamnesia, those are people who are in a fairly deep level of trance, and that's only going to be about maybe 20% of the population that will do that. 80% minimum will have complete, absolute memories of everything that they do. So I don't have to withhold, I don't have to have past life regression interrupt this over anything here.
What is the process that will prevent recall, do you suppose?
Well, of course, there are a couple of things. Number one, if a person is perceiving anything that's traumatic and they don't want to recall it, just like a person will not remember, you know, if you ask most people to describe what they were like in junior high school and high school, they would probably say they were the captain of the football team and had 17 cheerleaders, when in fact they probably had, you know, pen holders in their pockets, very thick glasses, you know? I mean, people have a tendency to exaggerate their background to avoid the negativity.
Well, then what leads you to believe that they would not exaggerate the existence of a past life or a future life? In other words, to fantasize.
Well, of course, in the search for grace, this is a case where I'm not a real big person on documentation. I do have cases that are fairly documented over the years, but this is a case where I turned over to CBS, who then had an independent researcher look at the material, and it turned out not only was the woman accurate on 24 facts that she gave, but two of the things she reported in trance, namely her age at her death. She said she was 32 and not looking forward to her 33rd birthday, and she said the name of her son was Cliff. The newspaper report said that she was 30 years old and her son's name was Chester Jr. As it turned out, surveying the birth and death certificates, which in New York State when this occurred, you have to get the clerical permission of the governor's office, and nobody can get that unless you're a family member, and this woman is far from a family member. As it turned out, she was right, they were wrong. So therefore, not only did this case document, but it documented on facts that she should have told me the false data had she just read newspaper reports, and now stands as one of the most documented cases of the country.
Okay, it seems irrefutable, but again, my question, past that case, in how many cases of this sort do you suppose what you get is fanciful?
Well, actually, I'll tell you, when I do the regression, I can't speak for anyone else. When I do a regression, I at times use what we call the federal model to make it as objective as possible. I'm really not particularly worried about the data, because when I do check them out, or hire researchers to do that when I don't have time or the ability to go across the country on these things, I find a tremendous validity to it. Well, I mean, when they're dealing with the ancient continent of Atlantis or Lemuria, or they're dealing with the 34th century progression on another planet, obviously, unless you're real patient, you know, you're going to have to wait around for that. But the regressions that I get from other patients, not just Ivy, the one in the Search for Grace, but others are very, very valid. In fact, I've had people who just use my past life regression tape. There's a very interesting woman who shared me on a radio show out of Boston, and she ordered this tape, and she went into a past life that took her to North Carolina in the late 1600s, where she was working a farm or plantation for cotton, whatever it was. She then took a vacation, decided to check this out, went into the court records, and by the way, the court records on the East Coast do have inventory going back to 1600. They're actually kept on court files. And in fact, it turned out that the number of bushels of cotton that she read out in trance that she remembered was actually on the court record. And that her name, the dates, the family that she had, all of that verified. So she literally documented her life just by playing a past life regression tape. And she never gets out from the Mason-Dixon line in her life. She's a good old New Englander from heart. And so here's an example of another case of people actually validating it. So I think the information, if properly done, we're assuming the person is a competent therapist, we're assuming that the patient trusts the therapist, and that this isn't some sort of a game or joke, and that there's, you know, the person is in a decent level of trance. That really isn't difficult at all, and I think the information properly done is extremely valid. So valid that not only am I, but my colleagues are, as a forensic consultant, hypnosis, age regression, just age regression, not past life, is used in all major police departments in this country. Every LAPD, NYPD, they all have either people like me, outside consultants, or captains or sergeants or lieutenants, or et cetera, people who are trained to use investigative hypnosis to go back to get data that can be corroborated independently in their investigation, and it's done all the time.
It's remarkable. One of the things, again, just for a second, I can't resist on the OJ trial. One of the things you recall with the descriptive history, the introduction of this testimony was made possible because OJ had said to somebody, I had a dream of this, and so I think it would affect my live test results. Would you think that to be valid time?
Well, actually, I think that first of all, the dream should never be admitted. If you're talking to anybody, the dream should never be admitted. I mean, this is going to be automatically based on guilty.
I agree. I do agree.
Secondly, the polygraph is not a visible either, so you have two not invisible things. So the dream should be admitted.
Having said that,
Having said that, the dream himself, if the dream convinced him one way or another, that's one thing. If the dream upset him, the lie detector or polygraph, which of course is not identical, only detects emotional spikes in your system. When you lie, you're supposed to worry about it and get stressed, and the BMR, the basic metabolic rate, and the heart rate, and the pulse rate supposed to go up, and that's what the lie detector is measuring. That's what it measures. John Jones was infamous for being able to take lie detector tests when it wasn't a stolen answer. And it's true, it's quite true. And he asked the FBI agent, I'll tell you about that. I have former agents who worked for me who told me that. I both the review first on that. He had no super ego, no soul, literally. He could just simply lie like a trooper, didn't think he was lying, or he could just simply get away with it. So, if anything, if he dreamt about an old TV series being canceled, anything that were obsession, then that would make the lie detector, of course, spike and jump and make him sound like he was lying.
So he was really right.
Well, he was right, of course, but it didn't have to be the dream. He could have just gone over, one of the games where he only gained 20 yards against the Dolphins in 1972. That could have been anything. So,
I also think, by the way, that somebody who could consistently pass a lie detector test and lie successfully could have a session with Dr. Goldberg and come away having fooled you.
well, you know something, I thought of that myself, and a pathological liar, or maybe a paranoid schizophrenic who's very good at that.
Yes.
It hasn't happened yet, but it did happen to a colleague of mine.
Yes.
The man, do you know the book Abductions by John Mack?
I talked to Dr. Mack not long ago here on the air, so yes, I know all about it. Yes.
Well, there was a case that apparently got by him, and I don't know the details of that particular situation, but I have never read into that. I mean, I've been on so many television shows with patients of mine, radio and TV shows, that if anybody was trying to do me, or whether it be one of these organizations, like a certain one in Buffalo, New York, that we both, I'm sure, know very well, who like to plant people in places like that, or research laboratories, trying to say, oh, guess what, this is a magician, and the whole thing's a scam, But I have never had that. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and boy, I'll tell you, I'm a real target. If anybody wants to try to do that, boy, I mean, I'm very public with this.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
I've never had that problem with dedicated, whether it's good karma or whether it's simply the fact that I really do feel that with hypnosis and with proper techniques, it really would be tough. I think I could detect a liar or somebody who's trying to fake it in a New York minute. Because I've had one occasion where a husband of a wife I was working with, who was trying to corroborate a past life tie, and he was just trying to patronize his wife. And of course, I saw him separately, and he did try to fudge it. And I said, I know what you're trying to do here, and I really don't appreciate it. He said, how'd you know, Doc? And I jumped, So this was not exactly a good way to prepare for Valentine's Day,
Exactly. Fascinating. Well, we're off on a fascinating track, and what I would like to do shortly is open the telephone lines, maybe out of the bottom of the hour here, and allow people to ask you questions. I didn't realize you knew so much about dreams.
Oh, well, you see, you have to in this field. Remember, my background is, with my medical background, dental degree, and of course, a lot of intensive study in neurology here. Dreams are nothing but hypnosis interspersed between the unconscious dream cycle, sleep cycle. So, if you do this skill, if you do what I do and don't know a lot about dreams, then you're really sort of like in the wrong ballpark here.
Can you produce, in other words, in a hypnotic trance, can you in effect produce a dream?
Well, hypnotic trance is a daydream. So basically, the only difference is the person doesn't snore usually, and that the fact that they're interspersing the hypnotic level with the conscious mind proper or willpower or beta brainwave level, whereas at night, the nocturnal dream, or what we call the regular dream, is going to be interspersed with the theta and delta of the unconscious mind. That's the only difference.
One last OJ question, and then I'm done. I know you deal with obsessive, compulsive people.
Right.
And my take on the OJ thing has been that he was obsessive and compulsive about her, and that she may have broken the straw of the camel by a little bit of taunting. I mean, you taunt an obsessive, compulsive person, and you may well push them over the edge. Is that a reasonable take?
It's a reasonable take, but see, what you're doing here, you're making the same assumption that a lot of people, both in and out of the media, do. They assume that he's guilty. That's not really something that has been demonstrated yet, but yet...
Well, with the amount of evidence, I calculate he is either A, guilty, or B, was framed. No other answer seems very likely.
I agree with that, too. But my point here is that he was definitely obsessed with his whole career. If you talk to any of his fellow athletes...
All right, we're going to have to hold it there. We're at the bottom of the hour. But basically, you gave me the answer I wanted. Thank you.
What's up, Neil? How you doing, Neil Evans? Thanks for joining the show. Hey, Neil, what's going on?
5033.
You can't what? You can't hear it? You can barely hear Art? Okay, I get it, man. I got you. I got you. I'll just turn it up. It's no big deal. I can't hear it either.
Art, one question posed on other programs, my programs, is when you die, should you go to the light?
Can you hear that now?
You always go to the light.
Always go to the light.
Light.
Mm-hmm. We had somebody who came on the air and troubled me greatly and said, the light is a trick, go to the darkness.
Can you hear it now, Neil?
Let's see, when your guests talk
If you
about
can, I can turn it up louder.
are we each on
pushing
a
it about 400
dimension
watts.
as individuals, or are we all in the same dimension?
Well, there's an infinite number of universes, as we call it out there, but you and your family and the people that that we're talking to right now are on a certain parallel universe. So we are on the same one. However, there are plenty of others out there too, and if you're able to see those, which you could do with progression techniques, then you can be programmed and twist to your ideal path.
Mm-hmm. All right,
Hey, thank you very much.
leaves the body at what is called death. When we project out of body, we are extending our consciousness to a point or place, a point or place, and the soul stays in the body.
Well, that's really not true. The soul leaves the body a lot, actually. It leaves it during the dream level. That's 3 hours a night. It leaves it through the 4 hours that you spend in daydreams or hypnotic levels during the waking day. So the soul is out of the body for 7 hours in every 24-hour cycle.
All right, let's go to the phones. I promised call the wild card lines. Area 702-727-1295. Okay, let's try it again, Rod. We don't allow last names on the air.
Oh, okay.
So let's just say this is Rod. Where are you calling from, Rod?
This is Rod calling from Round Lake Beach. From Illinois?
Illinois, all right.
Okay. Yeah. I had a dream. I was wondering if Dr. Gold would understand this. Now, I'm a paranoid schizophrenic, and I have these out-of-body experiences. I have them every night. I go into these deep meditations. And what I dreamt was that I had this girlfriend, and I was walking under these power lines by my home, and my pants started to glow. And they were like under a black light. I seen 3 gold statues coming out of the sky. One of them was me, one of them was my sister, one of them was my brother. I came down and I got bigger. As they got bigger and they got closer, they got bigger, I could walk and meditate at the same time. I was dark out, the sun had been down for a couple of hours, and my girlfriend wanted $1 for some smokes. I said no. I had $700 in my pocket. She went to the top of the hill. I was at the bottom. Everything got foggy and white. Now, as it got foggy, the only way I could tell my way home was by the trees.
All right, we're almost out of time.
Well, basically, Rod, the fact that you gave me a history of paranoid schizophrenia is a problem in the sense that the actual mechanisms of your brain functioning with the dream is going to be a little bit distorted than others. However, these dreams mean whatever they mean to you. Remember that these are fragments of 30 to 50 different dreams. It sounds like you're trying to make sense out of it. And what I'm saying is that enjoy the dream, or go on with your life and don't put a lot of faith in it. All it is just a dream.
Fascinating. But you say paranoia, schizophrenia would modify the way...
Yeah. The fact that the way he fires his synapses and the way he interprets things and the way he even acts behaviorally will be affected because of the syndrome itself, because it is a psychotic behavior. So therefore, what that means is that the mind levels in the dream levels are also going to be off on more, shall we say, exotic levels than people who don't have that particular syndrome.
Fascinating. West of the Rockies, you're on with Dr. Bruce Goldberg. Hi.
Hi, this is John from San Diego.
Yes, John.
I got a question for Dr. Goldberg.
Goldberg.
Goldberg, and welcome to KODO. I apologize. Sorry. I have a question about nightmarish dreams. The question is that when someone has a nightmarish dream one night and wake up the next morning having this nightmarish dream continue on, and on and on and on, until it becomes a memory at times.
Wait a minute, caller, I have a question. When you say continues on, you have the same dream again, or the dream actually continues where it left off?
Well, what this dream had in a nightmarish dream is that it happened in a nighttime, and it has to do with things with the Army.
Okay, I repeat, caller, I don't need to know the content of the dream, but does it continue or does it repeat?
It repeats itself over and over and over like a memory.
Okay.
Now, this is very important. The repetition of the dream is one of the ways your subconscious mind, or your soul as we call it, is trying to tell you that you haven't dealt with something. That's the key here. When you resolve something, for example, you're talking about something that happened in the early part of this life. You mentioned the Army. I assume you were in the Army? Yes, sir. Okay. Now, there was something about that dream that you did not deal with, or that is representing something that you didn't deal with, and that's why you're having this little sort of like alarm clock going off. Whatever that is, that needs to be dealt with. Once that is dealt with, you will no longer have those dreams. In my particular specialty, when people come to see me and have past life dreams, some of them are very violent endings. When we go through the experiences and when they learn to raise their soul's energy by what we call cleansing techniques, which are also partially trained to use via tapes, then they no longer have the dreams, just like Ivy in The Search for Grace. She no longer had the dreams of being murdered once she realized who Johnny was and once she was able to overcome that obsession and that attraction to him. So you have to deal with this, is what I'm saying. But doctor, would this help me like in a regression sort of hypnosis to bring out what this memory was? Absolutely. It would help you to find out what it is, but more importantly, interesting enough, that isn't even that important. What's important here is that this is a little complicated, but your soul's energy where you're functioning right now is compromised, which is why you're vulnerable to those dreams. Once you raise the soul's energy, you don't even have to understand the content. You'll automatically be able to rise above the issue, just like building up your immune system.
I was going to make the same parallel. It's just like the immune system then.
Right, exactly. It's exactly the same thing. It's an energy immune system, actually. So the point is that in your case, I think because you seem to be more intellectually involved with this and want to know what's going on, the laying this out in an age regression would be a way of having you lay out the complete scenario. Once that's done, you'll never have those dreams again.
All right, east of the Rockies, you're on the air with Dr. Bruce Goldberg. Hello, where are you calling from, please?
I'm calling from Kenosha, Wisconsin. My name is Lorenzo.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering, well, I had these dreams, but I wake up, I feel like I slept, I sleepwalked. That's how vivid it is.
Right? Do you find yourself actually in different physical positions, like in a different room when you come out of these dreams?
No.
Okay, because you actually can't sleepwalk even as an adult. It's rare, but it does happen.
Well, the dreams, I come back to the bed, and it's a recurring dream.
But do you have other people where you live that might have testified whether you actually did walk and leave?
No, I don't.
Okay.
All right, I'll add something. Doctor, my younger sister did exactly that when she was young. It was absolutely frightening. She would get up in the middle of the night, and she would walk in, by the way, whatever she was dressed in.
Right.
She would walk. It was really eerie and really scary.
Right.
And a few times she walked right out of the house and down the street.
But I'll bet she grew out of that as she grew older.
She did, yes.
Right. Now, most people will grow out of it. However, some people have other remnants of that. For example, I used to date this young lady who would call me at 3 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I was actually up. And she wouldn't have any idea what to call this about. She would talk, she was very intelligent, she was very bright, she was very articulate, and she would say, listen, I'll see you tomorrow. And then I would say, gee, how come you call me 3 o'clock? She goes, I didn't call you 3 o'clock. I just swear. She would swear on the Bible, like you call it. And in fact, she did. So this is a form of an adult form of somnambulism, as they would call it. But basically, these deeper dreams, is there something else you're trying to make out of? Obviously, you're having very deep dreams. I don't doubt that. But is there anything else going on that, I mean, you would know if you slept well because you would have, like, your feet would be dirty or you'd be cold.
You'd have physical signs. Right. Yeah, okay. Let's move on. We're on the Coast to Coast with Dr. Bruce Goldberg. Good evening. No, you're not. Let's see. Yeah, that's Lawson Green. Dr. Bruce Goldberg is my guest, and you're on air. Hello.
So, I want to know, like, I always have dreams about God talking to me. And when you say, like, it's really God talking to me, so...
Most likely, it's one of two things. We call this your higher self, or your superconscious mind, and the other is what are called masters and guides. Those are the two most likely candidates. The problem is that when you have this higher energy or perfect being, if you will, communicate with you, most people will assume it's either God or Jesus or whatever their belief system is, and usually that's not the case.
Is not?
No.
So isn't we all trying to go up to the highest to get to the heavens? Or?
Right. The problem is that, you see, unfortunately, I explained before in my older book, Past Life Visualized, which has a complete dissertation about the different plane concepts. We're on the Earth plane. This is the lowest of 5 planes that make up the karma cycle. Therefore, the 13th plane is what you would call the God plane, or heaven, nirvana, whatever you want to call it. There's no communication between the God plane or manifestations and the Earth plane. All you can get are what's on the lower 5 planes. Now, you can, however, access your higher self, which is you in your perfect form, or you can access a master or guide, which is somebody that you've probably known in past lives who has perfected themselves, but instead of going on to the God plane or the higher planes, has decided to stay around and help you and others to perfect themselves. But there's no real documentation or way we can even metaphysically, let alone scientifically, show that a person is actually contacting God. The higher self and master and guide are far more logical.
All right, so we are on the lowest plane. Just as a matter of curiosity, when there is an apparition, when there is a ghost or a spirit, or whatever it is that people call these things that appear, and it appears here on Earth, is it in effect slumming?
Slumming, did you say?
Slumming, yes.
Well, yes, I mean, there are times, for example, I had a woman I just saw from Northern California who was actually being she was influenced by the spirit of her late husband in a previous life who was actually trying to dominate her and causing all kinds of problems with her current husband, as well as drinking and all kinds of other things. And all it was an attempt at a past life possession, which of course doesn't work very well. But sure, there are entities that float around. There are no real demons or evil spirits per se. What there are poltergeists or ghosts or astral bodies, as we call them, that simply have not reincarnated, and they simply hang around. Sometimes they annoy people, sometimes they just simply are wandering and troubled spirits. But you made a comment before which ties into this, but I want to reinforce again. This is a very serious one. When you said that, I don't know who it was, and I don't really want to know who it was, but that person who said that when you see the white light go to the darkness, that's a real, I mean, if anybody has had that experience, if anybody has anybody told me that, please call me at the 1-800-COMMA4U number, 1-800-527-6248. I want to speak to you immediately. That is the worst possible advice anybody can ever give you. The white always represents purity. You can look around with rituals, no kind of technique. White is the good stuff. White is always pure. Even white magic, which I really have a problem with anyway, but at least they use the term white in that aspect. But whenever somebody says go to the darkness, boy, that is the worst possibility. In the one person that experience, they will always, almost always, anyway, they remember that, they will always be surrounded by a white light. They will go to a white light, and the white light will be the way, their sort of like escalator, if you will, to the higher, to the soul plane before they reincarnate. So white light is...
So what I'm glad you told me about that, because it was me that was told that on the air, and of course, along with everybody else, it has troubled me for years.
Really? Well, it's something that, to me, had you not, I'm glad you brought it up because people actually do that. They give that kind of advice. Usually the person giving the advice either doesn't know anything, or more importantly, is that they're trying to get people into the other aspects, like negative projection techniques, black arts, voodoo, hoodoo, you name it. There are so many problems like that around what I face, because I work with people to be programmed from these influences, and the white is always, you'll never lose with white. When somebody sees an aura, and they see a white, golden, or yellow, or orangey kind of aura, that's positive and pure. When they see a grayish or blackish overtone, that person's in trouble. Usually they're dying, or something is occurring that is not really metaphysical positive here.
All right, east of the Rockies, you're on the air with Dr. Bruce Goldberg tonight.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
My name is Saul.
Yeah, all right, just give us your first name and where you're calling from.
I'm calling from Russell, Illinois.
Yes.
Hi, this is Dr. Goldberg. Can I help you?
Oh, yes, I was wondering, well, you know how all science fact has proven that the Bible basically is wrong?
Well, when you say the Bible is wrong, I don't know what you specifically mean. I mean,
What do you mean, Colin?
Yeah, well, people who listen to this show would think that you're evil. They don't, in church, they say that aliens aren't real, they're, et cetera, you know.
well, you have to understand, to me, I don't like the word wrong here. I prefer that everybody's entitled to their belief system. And the Bible, of course, has made certain predictions which are supposed to occur in the next 4 or 5 years. And those will be either right or wrong. I can tell you that, and I can tell you that they're not going to happen. But basically, you have to determine your own faith. See, the spiritual aspect of metaphysics really fits very nicely in any form of religion, if you want to call it that, if you will. But to me, the point is not what you believe in, and not whether you're Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, Islamic, or whatever it is what you do with it. And the do unto others is really a karmic principle, not just a Christian principle. So I don't think it's incompatible.
Yes, but Doctor, a lot of Christians out there would say the things you deal with, regressions, progressions, you talk of spirits, you talk of spirit levels, and all of that to the average Christian is evil stuff.
Well, but so did Jesus talk about that, and so did the apostles. I mean, spirits have been around forever, and the idea of Easter coming up, if you will, is nothing but reincarnation. So, I mean, it's a question of, I think, the names that we give it, and maybe that I come across, you know me very well, I come across from this very scientific perspective. And to me, it's a clinical discipline. So to me, although I do agree and believe in the theory because I've tested clinically myself, however, my bottom line as a therapist, Los Angeles here, is that patients come to me because they have real issues, habits, phobias, they're victims of negative projection techniques, they have all kinds of things from sexual dysfunction to various forms of psychosomatic issues, and using these techniques and energy cleansing techniques, which by the way are backed by hard science, simply helps them to resolve issues, to grow, to empower themselves, which is my main point here, is having people become independent of drugs and of people like me, even therapists, is to go on with their lives. And to me, hey, if that's evil, then, sign me up for it.
All right. First time caller line, you're on the air with Dr. Bruce Goldberg. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hi there.
I'm sorry. The line is not so great.
Okay, where are you calling from?
Oregon?
Oregon, okay. What is your question?
Last week I had my first grandson, and to work on a specific issue, but instead I called myself as a light being on Alpha Centauri, and I was very surprised about it.
Okay, now you bring up something very, very interesting. In my older book, Past Lives, Future Lives, there's a chapter called Bob and the Light People. What you're describing is what we call a light people regression, in which instead of being in a physical body, you are in pure energy, namely light. This is a very relatively rare occurrence. It's about maybe 3 to 5% of my regression, and my guess is that the information that you were trying to obtain was probably very difficult to get, was it not?
Yeah.
Okay, a light people regression is actually a very, almost like a sensor type of regression. Very difficult to get, but you are not paranoid schizophrenic here, or psychologically disturbed because of it. If anything, what you're experiencing is potentially a very therapeutic experience. I don't know how experienced the therapist that you're working with was in dealing with light people. This is not something that everybody has in their armamentarium. But it's got tremendous potential. The problem is that when I used to practice dentistry, this would be like taking out an attacking lizard tooth. It's a very difficult situation to get data from.
All right, I'm sorry, we're very short on time, about 20 seconds. Who are the light people? What are you talking about?
The light people basically are extraterrestrials, if you will, who actually came to the Earth and actually created the karmic cycle. What they did was they inhabited the physical body of man before there was Homo sapiens, and actually did a lot of nasty things which caused them to be trapped in the physical body, namely their energy, and that's why you have the karmic cycle. And that's among others, is considered to be one of the sources.
All right, that's it. We're out of time for this hour. We'll be back with Dr. Bruce Goldberg. Boy, I'm glad I have that. We'll come back and talk more